First contact and misjudgment. The Viridian Empire stretched across 3 spiral arms of the galaxy, a civilization so ancient that their oldest colonies couldn't remember a time before interstellar travel. Their ships moved like liquid shadow between the stars, propelled by engines that harnessed the power of artificial singularities. For 6,000 cycles, they had expanded without meaningful resistance, cataloging, studying, and when necessary, subjugating species that occupied valuable worlds. Supreme Overlord Zex Kaloth stood on the command deck of the Inevitable Dominance, his flagship that spanned 3 kilometers from bow to stern. His scaled skin shimmered with bioluminescent patterns that signaled his elevated status among the 7 billion Viridians across their dominion. 4 secondary eyes tracked multiple data streams while his primary eyes focused on the holographic display of a small blue-green world that had just appeared on their expansion charts. Preliminary analysis, Science Director, he commanded, voice resonating through chambers specifically designed to amplify the authority in his tones. Science Director Vexmorith approached, her scales displaying the more muted patterns of the scholarly caste. The planet designate Terra, or Earth as the natives call it, harbors a civilization that has only achieved rudimentary spaceflight within the last century. They've established minor colonies on their moon and neighboring planet, but their technology is primitive. She adjusted the display, zooming in on orbital structures. They rely on chemical propellants, basic fission power, and are just beginning to experiment with fusion reactions. Weaponry, nuclear warheads, kinetic projectiles, and directed energy weapons that our shields would barely register. Nothing that poses a threat to our battle fleet. Zex Kaloth's mouth parts curved into what passed for a smile among his kind. Perfect. Another simple assimilation. Then, prepare the standard ultimatum broadcast. Give them. He paused, considering 24 of their planetary rotations to surrender. That should be generous. On Earth, Commander Ilara Kavik stood before the United Earth Defense Council, her composed exterior belying the storm of emotions beneath. At 42, she had risen through the ranks of the Earth fleet through a combination of tactical brilliance and unwavering determination. The subtle flecks of gray in her close-cropped black hair testified to years of service protecting humanity's fragile expansion into the solar system. The alien vessel entered our solar system 6 hours ago, she reported, her voice steady despite the unprecedented nature of her briefing. It bypassed our outer sensor network using technology we cannot yet comprehend. If not for the gravitational anomalies detected by the Titan Research Station, we might still be unaware of their presence. Admiral Chen, the most senior military figure in the room, leaned forward. What do we know about their capabilities? Very little, sir. The ship, if we can call it that, is approximately 3 kilometers long. Its holding position beyond Mars' orbit. Our scans can barely penetrate its outer hull, but energy readings suggest power generation capabilities that exceed our entire planetary output. The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity, despite its rapid technological advancement over the past century, was still confined primarily to its own solar system. The possibility of contact with an advanced alien civilization had been debated, prepared for, but never truly expected so soon. "They're broadcasting something," announced Tactical Officer Rice, her voice cutting through the silence as she rushed into the chamber. A message on all frequencies, in perfect English. The main display activated, revealing a creature that appeared vaguely reptilian, with multiple eyes and scales that seemed to shimmer with internal light. The message was brief and chilling. People of Earth, your world has been charted for integration into the Viridian Empire. You have 24 hours to surrender your sovereignty and prepare for assimilation. Resistance is historically futile but remains your right to choose. Choose wisely. The transmission ended, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. Admiral Chen was the first to recover. Options, Commander Kavik. Ilara had anticipated this question from the moment the transmission began. "We fight, sir. Every simulation we've run for first contact with a hostile advanced civilization suggests immediate surrender leads to the worst outcomes for humanity. With what? You just told us their technology outmatches ours by orders of magnitude. Ilara's expression hardened. With Project Phoenix, sir, the mention of the classified program caused visible discomfort around the table. Project Phoenix had been humanity's contingency plan, a fleet of warships built in secret asteroid bases, incorporating every theoretical advancement and desperate innovation human scientists could devise. Ships that sacrificed comfort, efficiency, and even safety for pure combat effectiveness. Those ships were never meant to be deployed except as an absolute last resort, the Secretary General protested. They haven't even completed full testing protocols. And they may be all that stands between humanity and extinction, Ilara countered. I've commanded the test squadron for 3 years. They're ready enough. The debate raged for hours, but as the deadline approached, desperation overcame caution. 20 hours after the ultimatum was delivered, Commander Kavik received her orders. Deploy the Phoenix fleet. On the bridge of the Defiance, the flagship of humanity's secret fleet, Ilara studied the tactical display. Around her, a crew chosen specifically for their combination of brilliance and psychological resilience monitored systems that pushed the boundaries of human scientific understanding. All Phoenix vessels report ready, Commander, announced Lieutenant Commander Marcus Way, her executive officer. Despite the gravity of the situation, his voice betrayed a hint of excitement. Like many serving on the Phoenix fleet, he had joined the program believing their experimental ships would never see actual combat. The Phoenix fleet consisted of 37 vessels of varying sizes, each built with a singular purpose: to ensure humanity's survival at any cost. The ships themselves bore little resemblance to the sleek, efficient vessels of Earth's public space fleet. They were angular, asymmetrical, with redundant systems and armor layered upon armor. Where conventional thinking prioritized efficiency, the Phoenix designs embraced overwhelming force and survivability. Begin Operation Thunderbolt, Ilara ordered. All ships execute jump on my mark. The jump drives were humanity's greatest secret, experimental technology reverse-engineered from anomalous readings detected near Saturn decades earlier. Theoretical physicists had worked alongside engineers to create a system that could fold space-time in ways that defied conventional understanding. The drives were dangerous, unstable, and represented humanity's only chance against the vastly superior Viridian technology. 3, 2, 1. Mark. The Phoenix fleet vanished from its hidden bases scattered throughout the asteroid belt and reappeared in precise formation around the massive Viridian vessel. On the bridge of the inevitable dominance, alarms blared as sensors detected the sudden appearance of multiple vessels. Zex Kaloth rose from his command chair, mandibles clicking in surprise. Impossible, Science Director Vex Morith exclaimed, her scales flashing patterns of confusion. They possess phase displacement technology. That contradicts all our intelligence. Zex Kaloth studied the vessels that had surrounded his flagship. Their design was unlike anything in the Viridian tactical database. Angular, heavily armored, bristling with weapon systems that seemed excessive by any rational standard. Most puzzling was their complete lack of aesthetic consideration, as if they had been built purely for function, with no regard for the harmony and elegance that all advanced civilizations naturally incorporated into their designs. Open a channel, he commanded. I will speak with whoever leads this display. Commander Kavik's face appeared on the Viridian view screen, her expression resolute. This is Commander Ilara Kavik of the Earth Defense Fleet. Your ultimatum has been received and rejected. The people of Earth do not surrender to threats. Zex Kaloth's bioluminescent patterns shifted to indicate amusement. Your courage is noted, Commander, but misplaced. You cannot hope to match our technological superiority with these crude vessels. He gestured dismissively. I offer one final opportunity to reconsider before we demonstrate the consequences of defiance. Ilara's expression didn't change. We understand the consequences perfectly, Overlord. The question is, do you? Before Zexkalov could respond, Ilara gave the order that would forever change the course of interstellar relations. All ships, execute Sunburst Protocol. The Phoenix fleet unleashed its first volley, not the expected nuclear weapons or kinetic projectiles, but a barrage of quantum disruption torpedoes, devices theorized to temporarily destabilize the fabric of spacetime itself. The weapons struck the Viridian shields, designed to repel conventional energy and matter, and pass through as if they weren't there. Secondary explosions rippled across sections of the massive Viridian vessel as systems overloaded and failed. For the first time in his long life, Zexkalov felt something approaching fear. The battle escalated quickly. 3 Phoenix ships were destroyed in spectacular explosions, but not before they inflicted serious damage on the Viridian flagship. What shocked the Viridian command most was not just the humans' unexpected technology, but their tactics. The smaller vessels deliberately placed themselves in the path of attacks meant for their larger companions, sacrificing themselves to maintain the fleet's offensive capability. As the battle raged, Commander Kavik implemented the second phase of her strategy. Execute Operation Spectre, she ordered. Teams Alpha through Delta, commence boarding actions. Small, stealthy craft launched from the larger Phoenix vessels, using the chaos of battle as cover to approach the damaged sections of the Viridian flagship. These carried specialized teams of soldiers equipped with experimental-powered armor and weapons designed specifically for shipboard combat. Zexkalov received the reports with increasing alarm. They're boarding us? How did they penetrate our defensive fields? Unknown, Overlord, his security chief responded. They appear to be using some form of phase shift technology at the individual level. Our internal sensors cannot track them effectively. The human boarding teams moved with precision through the alien vessel, their tactics displaying a level of adaptability that confounded the Viridian defenders. Where the Viridians expected a frontal assault, the humans attacked from multiple directions simultaneously. When Viridian forces established defensive positions, the humans bypassed them entirely, focusing on critical systems rather than engaging in direct combat. As the battle approached its third hour, the situation had transformed from what the Viridians expected to be a simple demonstration of power into a genuine struggle for survival. The inevitable dominance had sustained damage to 40% of its systems, and the humans showed no signs of relenting. We need to withdraw and reassess, Vex Morith urged her leader. These humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered before. Zexkalov's pride warred with his tactical sense. In 6,000 cycles of expansion, the Viridian Empire had never retreated from a primitive species. Yet the evidence before him was undeniable. These humans possessed technology that should have been beyond their reach and employed it with a ferocity that defied conventional logic. Prepare jump coordinates to the staging point, he finally ordered. We will withdraw, temporarily, to analyze their capabilities and return with appropriate force. As the Viridian flagship initiated its jump sequence, Commander Kavik watched from the bridge of the Defiance. The cost had been high. 11 Phoenix ships destroyed, over 800 crew lost. But they had achieved what many thought impossible. They had forced one of the most advanced civilizations in the galaxy to retreat. They'll be back, Lieutenant Commander Wei said quietly, standing beside her. And next time they'll come prepared. Ilara nodded, her eyes still fixed on the space where the massive alien vessel had been. Yes, but so will we. She turned to face her executive officer, her expression resolute. And now they know something crucial about humanity. What's that, Commander? That we don't accept inevitable defeat. We rewrite the rules of the game. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. This was just the first battle. The real war begins now. The turning point. The Grand Imperial Chamber on the Viridian homeworld fell silent as Supreme Overlord Zexkalov concluded his report. 7 High Counselors, representing the oldest and most powerful lineages of the Empire, sat in a perfect semicircle, their bioluminescent patterns shifting through colors that indicated everything from disbelief to outrage. "Impossible," High Counselor Thexverin finally said, breaking the silence. His scales flashed patterns of skepticism. "No primitive species has ever repelled a dominance-class vessel. Your report defies 6 millennia of imperial expansion data." "Yet it happened," Zexkaloth responded, displaying the recorded battle footage on the chamber's central holographic projector. "These humans possess technology that should be beyond their developmental stage. Their tactics demonstrate a unique approach to warfare." The Council watched as human vessels absorbed devastating hits that should have vaporized them instantly, as boarding teams phased through solid matter, as weapons bypassed shielding that had protected Viridian ships for thousands of years. "How?" asked Nex Lothar, the oldest counselor. "How does a species confined to a single star system develop such capabilities?" Science Director Vex Morith stepped forward, her scales displaying the cautious patterns of someone about to present a controversial theory. "I believe they evolved differently than we anticipated. Most species we've encountered developed along predictable lines. Technological advancement matched with cultural unification and philosophical maturity. Humanity appears to have prioritized technological advancement above all else, particularly military technology. You're suggesting they're an anomaly in the evolutionary paradigm." Nex Lothar's patterns shifted to indicate deep concern. "More than that," Vex Morith continued. "I've analyzed their historical transmissions. This species has spent much of its recent history in conflict with itself. They've directed enormous resources toward weapons development, even when not actively at war. Their greatest technological leaps often came during periods of existential threat." The implication hung heavily in the chamber. The Viridian Empire had evolved through cooperation and unification, technological advancement coming through careful, deliberate research spanning centuries. The idea of a species that innovated most rapidly under pressure, that thrived on crisis, was deeply unsettling. "They must be contained," declared Thexverin. "Assemble the Third Fleet. We will crush this aberration before it spreads." Zexkaloth's patterns flashed warning. "With respect, High Counselor, I advise caution. What we witnessed was not their main force, but a hidden fleet they deployed as a last resort. They have demonstrated capabilities we didn't predict. We should study them further before engaging." His warning went unheeded. The Viridian High Council, accustomed to 6,000 years of unquestioned dominance, could not accept the idea that a species so young could pose a genuine threat. The Third Fleet, comprising over 200 vessels, was dispatched to the human system with a simple directive: complete subjugation. On Earth, preparations for the expected Viridian return had transformed the planet. Ancient rivalries between nations were set aside as humanity united against the common threat. Every industrial facility was converted to war production. Scientific institutes worldwide focused exclusively on weapons development and defense systems. Commander Ilara Kavik, now promoted to admiral following the first engagement, stood in the newly established Earth Defense Command Center buried deep beneath the Himalayan mountains. The massive underground complex hummed with activity as military personnel from every nation worked alongside civilian specialists to coordinate humanity's defense. "Time estimate?" she asked Dr. Sanjay Mehra, the brilliant physicist heading the technology integration team. 4 more days to bring the planetary shield to full operational capacity," he replied, gesturing to the global network diagram on the main display. "We've adapted the energy absorption principles from the Phoenix fleet to work on a planetary scale. It won't stop their weapons completely, but it should mitigate enough damage to prevent them from simply bombarding us from orbit." Admiral Kavik nodded, her expression grim. "And the Skyhammer platforms? All 50 are in position. Once the Viridians enter the system, they'll have a nasty surprise waiting for them." Skyhammer, massive orbital platforms disguised as communication satellites, represented humanity's most destructive innovation yet. Each contained a modified jump drive designed not for transportation, but as a weapon, capable of creating localized spacetime distortions that could tear apart even the most advanced hulls. The Phoenix fleet is at 85% strength, reported Lieutenant Commander Wei, now serving as Kavik's chief tactical officer. We've incorporated what we learned from the first engagement and modified our approach accordingly. And the Nemesis Protocol? Kavik asked quietly. Wei's expression darkened. Ready, Admiral. Though I hope we won't need to use it. Nemesis represented humanity's final option, a plan so desperate it had been approved only under the direst predictions. If Earth's defenses failed, if the Phoenix fleet was destroyed, Nemesis would ensure the Viridians won nothing but ashes. 7 days after the first engagement, long-range sensors detected the approach of the Viridian Third Fleet. As predicted, they came in force, a massive armada of vessels arranged in the mathematically perfect formation that reflected Viridian tactical philosophy. They're exactly where we expected, we observed, studying the tactical display in Earth's command center. They haven't adapted their approach at all. Admiral Kavik allowed herself a tight smile. They've been the dominant force in their sphere of influence for 6,000 years. That breeds a certain inflexibility. She activated the fleet-wide communication system. All Phoenix vessels, prepare for Operation Scattershot. Skyhammer platforms, stand by for activation on my mark. The Viridian fleet advanced with supreme confidence. Their sensors had detected the human defensive preparations, but nothing they observed caused concern. Their tactical computers calculated a 99.7% probability of complete victory within 6 hours. High Commander Rezvekor, leader of the Third Fleet, watched with satisfaction as his ships entered the human solar system. Begin standard approach pattern, he ordered. Prepare planetary containment fields for deployment once orbital superiority is established. His tactical officer's scales flashed with acknowledgement, but before he could implement the order, alarms blared across the command deck. Spatial anomalies detected throughout the fleet formation. The officer reported, patterns showing confusion and alarm. Multiple signatures. They matched the human jump technology, but with significantly different energy profiles. Before Rezvekor could respond, space itself seemed to fracture around 50 points throughout his perfectly arranged fleet. The Skyhammer platforms activated simultaneously, creating overlapping fields of distorted spacetime that tore into the Viridian vessels caught within their radius. 23 Viridian ships were destroyed in the first moments of the engagement, their hulls literally twisted apart by forces they had no defense against. The perfect formation shattered as surviving vessels attempted to maneuver away from the spatial distortions. Deploy defensive countermeasures. Rezvekor ordered, his patterns flashing urgent command signals. Reconfigure shields to adaptive mode. But the Viridians' troubles were just beginning. As they struggled to regroup, the Phoenix fleet executed a coordinated jump, appearing not in a conventional battle formation, but scattered throughout the Viridian fleet like wolves among sheep. The human vessels immediately opened fire at point-blank range, targeting the specific vulnerabilities they had identified during the first engagement. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral Kavik watched the battle unfold with intense focus. Status of Operation Spectre, she demanded. Boarding teams report successful infiltration of 17 Viridian vessels, her operations officer responded. They're proceeding to primary targets. This time, the boarding teams weren't just focused on causing damage. Each carried specialized devices designed to interface with Viridian technology, to steal their secrets even as they fought them. It was a calculated risk, placing some of Earth's best soldiers and engineers in the heart of enemy vessels, but the potential intelligence gain was deemed worth the cost. The battle quickly devolved into what military historians would later call structured chaos. Where the Viridians attempted to reestablish formation and coordination, human vessels acted with near-complete autonomy, each captain exploiting local opportunities without waiting for central command. It was warfare that defied the Viridian understanding of military doctrine, not random, but adapting moment by moment in ways their tactical algorithms couldn't predict. 3 hours into the battle, with nearly a third of his fleet destroyed or crippled, High Commander Rez Vekor faced the unthinkable prospect of defeat. His flagship, targeted by multiple human vessels, had lost primary propulsion and shield generators. Boarding teams had penetrated to within 2 sections of the command center. "Prepare emergency jump coordinates," he ordered, patterns displaying the Viridian equivalent of grim determination. "We must preserve what remains of the fleet to report what we've learned." But retreat would not be so simple. As the Viridian vessels attempted to engage their jump drives, they encountered another human innovation: field projectors deployed throughout the battle zone that created localized disturbances in spacetime, preventing clean jump calculations. "They've trapped us," Rez Vekor realized with dawning horror. "They never intended to let us retreat." On the Defiance, Admiral Kavik watched the Viridians' desperate attempts to escape with grim satisfaction. "All vessels, execute final phase of Operation Thunderbolt," she ordered. "Target their command ships specifically." The Phoenix fleet closed in for the kill, concentrating fire on the largest Viridian vessels. One by one, the alien ships were disabled or destroyed, their advanced technology proving insufficient against humanity's desperate innovations and relentless assault. As the battle entered its 5th hour, with victory for Earth all but assured, Admiral Kavik made a decision that would later be debated in ethical forums across human space. Rather than destroying the Viridian flagship, she ordered a ceasefire once its weapons were disabled. "Open a channel to the Viridian commander," she instructed her communications officer. High Commander Rez Vekor's image appeared on the main view screen, his scales displaying patterns of defeat mixed with defiance. "Have you contacted me to demand surrender, human?" he asked, mandibles clicking with suppressed emotion. "No," Kavik replied simply. "I'm offering you a choice." Confusion flickered across the Viridians' bioluminescent patterns. What choice could there be? "You have defeated us." The choice between endless war and something new. Kavik leaned forward. "Your civilization has existed for thousands of years. Ours is young, aggressive, adaptable. We've demonstrated what happens when you threaten our existence, but neither of us wants the destruction that would come from prolonged conflict. What are you proposing?" "A delegation. Take what remains of your fleet back to your leaders. Tell them what you've witnessed here. Then, if they're willing, send representatives to discuss terms for peaceful coexistence." Rez Vekor's patterns shifted through multiple emotional indicators before settling on cautious consideration. "And if they refuse?" Admiral Kavik's expression hardened. "Then tell them we'll come to them next, and we won't stop with a single battle fleet." In the aftermath, as the remaining Viridian vessels limped away from Earth's solar system under careful observation, humanity began the process of assessing what they had gained and lost. The cost had been high. 17 Phoenix ships destroyed, thousands of personnel killed, massive resources expended on the defensive effort. But the rewards were potentially greater. The technology recovered from captured Viridian vessels promised leaps forward in multiple scientific fields. The psychological impact of successfully repelling an advanced alien threat had united Earth's nations as nothing had before, and perhaps most importantly, humanity had proven itself a force to be reckoned with among the stars. 6 weeks later, Admiral Kavik stood before the United Earth Council, delivering her final report on what was now called the Viridian incursion. The recovered technology has been distributed to research facilities worldwide, and integration efforts are proceeding faster than projected. The Phoenix fleet is being expanded using the new insights we've gained, and planetary defenses are now at full operational capacity. "And what of the diplomatic initiative?" asked the Secretary General. "Any response from the Viridians?" "Yes, Madam Secretary. A transmission was received 18 hours ago." Kavik activated the central display, showing the image of an obviously different Viridian, older with patterns that suggested great authority and wisdom. "This is High Elder Nex Lothar of the Viridian High Council. They're sending a diplomatic delegation. They'll arrive within the month." Murmurs of surprise and cautious optimism filled the chamber. The Secretary-General nodded thoughtfully. You took a significant risk offering diplomacy rather than pressing for total victory, Admiral. Humanity's strength isn't just in our ability to fight, Madam Secretary, Kavik replied. It's in our capacity to imagine alternatives to fighting. The Viridians have superior technology in many areas, but they lack our adaptability, our creativity. There's potential for both civilizations to benefit from cooperation rather than conflict. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Kavik found herself standing at a viewport overlooking the rebuilt Phoenix fleet. The vessels, once crewed by necessity, were being refitted with integrated Viridian technology, creating hybrids more powerful than either original design. Lieutenant Commander Wei joined her, following her gaze to the ships below. Do you think they'll really want peace? He asked quietly. After what we did to their fleet, I think they're pragmatists, Kavik answered. They've had 6,000 years of uncontested expansion. Now they've encountered something they can't simply assimilate or destroy. That forces reevaluation. And if they decide we're too dangerous to allow to exist. Kavik's expression grew somber. Then they'll learn that what they saw was only the beginning of what humanity is capable of. She turned away from the viewport. But I'm betting on a different outcome. The Viridians achieved greatness through order and consistency. We did it through chaos and adaptation. Together. That's a combination the galaxy has never seen before. As the Phoenix fleet prepared for the arrival of the Viridian diplomatic mission, humanity stood at the threshold of a new era. Whether it would be characterized by interstellar cooperation or conflict remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. The species that had evolved on a small blue world orbiting an unremarkable star had announced its presence to the cosmos in a way that could never be ignored. The galaxy would never be the same again. Neither would humanity.